First, I wanted to say thank you very much. My question is, I feel as though my head is not connected to my body, in that I intellectually understand everything that you say. I get it. I try to feel good in the moment. It works sometimes. You mentioned before that you know what the vortex feels like. You can feel it. I felt that, but I fall out of it right away.
So step 5 is tailor-made for you. Not being mad at yourself when you're...
So this may sound like... I don't know. I do those things.
Can you hear?
Oh, I'm probably because I'm nervous.
It's all right. We're just checking to see if your head is hooked on.
Yeah, it's okay. So I came to see you 11 years ago, and I didn't know much about it, and I went with my family. And I remember sitting there, and I knew that if I raised my hand, you would have called on me, and I was scared, and I didn't do it. And then I left, and a lot of wonderful things happened, and I felt as though I didn't know how to handle it, and it all fell apart.
It's all right. If you haven't practiced the vibration, usually things aren't sustaining. That's what we were talking about earlier. That's why our friend is deliberately feeling good when he wakes up and going through some processes, just because he wants to knowingly get some momentum going until he trusts that that momentum is sustainable. And you heard us. We played with him. We don't want you to cling to alignment. We want you to relax and know that you can reclaim it anytime you want it. But it is helpful to be aware of what alignment yields and what not alignment yields.
Okay.
Well, what we mean by that is the better you feel, the better things go. And the worse you feel, the worse things go. Because law of attraction, Esther had such a wonderful thought yesterday. And she woke up thinking about it this morning. And we wanted her to think about it because we thought it was a very good conversation to have with you. Sometimes people will say, well, it's just not even. It's not even. In other words, that one's getting more than that one, or that one's getting more than me. It's not even. And Esther has this strong sense of fairness. She likes things to be fair. And we explained to her as she came across this even, it's not even, that law of attraction doesn't make things even, but law of attraction always makes things fair. You always get what you are vibrationally offering. And what you are vibrationally offering may not bring back to you something that's even with something that someone else is getting. It's always fair. It's rarely even. Because people are doing different things in relationship with their vibration, you see. Desires aren't even. Some of you live more contrast and you feel your vortex. Do you know what that is? That's that vibrational reality. We wrote a whole book about it because we wanted so much for you to accept this step 2 part of it, that when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want, and those rockets of desires create this vibrational reality that we call your vortex, this vibrational existence. And so, because of the different way different people live, even your vortices aren't even in terms of what's in them, because your life produces different vortices. But you don't want to compare what's in your garage to what's in anyone else's garage, or what's in your vortex to what's in anybody else's vortex, because what's in your garage or in your vortex doesn't have anything to do with what anybody else has in theirs. It only has to do with what your life has caused you to put there. And then what comes out of your vortex into your garage, how do I get the money out of the vortex and into the bank, is also about what you're doing vibrationally, you see. That's why you're asking these questions. And so it isn't about what's even, but it is about what's fair. Hear the distinction. We want you to stop comparing what anybody else is doing, and let it only be about your relationship with your own inner being, who is always pleased with where you are and always happy to help you to the next realization of the next thing. We touched something there, didn't we?
My father died 9 years ago, and I feel like I'm living in the past because I know to honor him, it's to remember all the good and talk about the good things, but I focus on the bad.
Well, you know what? Whether you're focusing upon the good of him or the bad of him, doesn't matter. You're not focusing on the now of him. He's not in your past. He's in your present. And he's a vibrational energy to which you have access. And so as you're remembering good times or remembering bad times, you are disallowing the now times. Does that make any sense to you at all?
Is allowing the now times, for example, I know that he's always around. I get signs all the time, and I know, like I said, in my head, I know he's there. But immediately I go back to remembering when he died, instead of saying, he's here with me now, and I know he's here.
Well, that's not illogical, because you have more momentum about those thoughts than you do about his now thoughts. So this is something really important. You're all going to really like this. So when you focus on any subject, like pick a stick out of the pile and bring it into the forefront and focus on it, the vibration that you have not most often offered, but the vibration that you have most recently kept active is what your opinion about this subject is going to be. So that means that each time you activate that subject, you go there. And each time you activate that subject, you go there. Each time you activate that subject, you go there. So that when you activate that subject, law of attraction naturally takes you there. So all you'd have to do is focus on other things. And when that subject comes up, at least acknowledge that there are other aspects that you could focus upon. And it is helpful to acknowledge these things are not happening now. And anything that's not happening now will dissipate into inactivity for you. But you're keeping it active. So you're keeping something active that isn't even the whole of what it was, and certainly is not anything to do with what it is. You're going to hear this more easily, and we'll give Esther's analogy of her experience with Jerry. So Jerry made his transition almost 5 years ago. So after he made his transition, she had many dreams where there he was back with her. And she would say, everybody's going to be so glad to see you. They're going to be really surprised when you walk on the stage with me tomorrow because they think you're dead. And they don't realize how really good you look. And they're going to be so thrilled with your incredible recovery. And then she would wake up and he would still be dead. And she'd be mad at him all over again. So then, as time goes by, those dreams become a little fewer, but still, every now and again, a dream. And then one day, Esther realized, with our guidance, that, so you've got that picture. Now we're going to start in another place. You're going to like this. So we've been talking a lot about how life causes you to put things in your vortex. And your vortex is this vibrational reality that are vibrations that will turn to thoughts, and thoughts that will turn to words, and words that will turn to things. This is the way creation works. Vibration turns. In fact, the book that we are writing with Esther's fast fingers is Turning Thoughts to Things. Turning thoughts to things. How do things become a manifested, materialized, actualized thing? So Esther's been noticing how many of her vibrations have turned to thoughts, and her thoughts have turned to powerful ideas, and her ideas are turning to very quick things. And so she hears us talk about this sweet spot, and the reason that we talk about the sweet spot is because we are noticing Esther in that sweet spot with cooperative components assisting her in turning thoughts to things, thoughts to things, thoughts to things. So the other day, Esther was commenting about these dreams that she keeps having about Jerry. And we said to her, Esther, do you think that you're trying to turn the thought of Jerry to a thing? You think you're trying to bring Jerry back to your bed? You're trying to bring Jerry back to being across the dinner table? Are you trying to bring Jerry back? And she thought about it for a second and said, pretty much. Pretty much. I think that'd be great. And yet she knows that that's not a thought that's going to turn to a thing. And then she realized, it was sort of a stunning realization in the moment of our conversation, that by trying to turn that thought into a thing, she was not letting that thought evolve in the way it now will. It's like she had the lid on both ends of her Jerry experience. Does that sort of make sense to you? Her logic tells her he's not going to come back into this physical body. But her wanting that prevented her from letting the relationship that is in the now develop into the sublime relationship that it can be.
So is that why when I have the signs and I know he's there?
He's there.
He's there, but is that why they happen and they go away quickly because I haven't practiced the now of him?
Well, let's talk about anyone in any relationship. So let's say that your father is still in his physical body, and every time you got together with him, you complained about what he used to do. So now we're just talking about most people who have someone with whom they're having a bad relationship. So every time you get together, you just talk about how bad they were or how bad it's been. So you just keep bringing that badness forward into the now. And you never get any distance between how bad it was and how good it can be because you keep focusing on that. And what we're saying to you is even after someone dies, you can still do that. In Esther's case, she's not keeping the bad alive, but she's trying to keep the good alive too. And in doing so, when you try too hard to hold to the past, you deny the powerful now and the powerful present. You see what we're getting at? You have to let all of us, all of you, everyone you know, you have to let everyone move forward because everyone has a vortex that is calling them forward. Everyone has a vortex that is calling them forward. Everyone has a vortex that is calling them forward. But in this now, it's the feeling of the call that is the juiciness of life. It's not the being forward, it's being now feeling the call of all. It's the blending of who you really are, not the blending of who you were. That's what we want you to hear. It's the blending of who you now are, not the reconciliation of who you once were. And you got to get used to this because you're eternal beings. Most people have to croak before they even begin to get used to it. But it would serve you so well in your human bodies if you would allow yourself to know the eternalness of who you are. If you would let that circuit be open between you and your inner being so that now, the whole of you is having the experience, you see. Whatever happened is not as good as what is happening. Here's where we're at with this. Do you acknowledge, as Esther's been acknowledging, that once something turns into a manifestation, it's way good? It's so good. The manifestation is so good. And Esther's even been saying, I like the manifestations, I love you very much, Abraham, way better than the focus wheel or the thought about it or the scripting. I just like the manifestation so much. Well, what she's saying is she likes the moment of alignment in her now. She likes to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and focused in the now, with the whole of her focusing in the now, you see. So when you think about what an experience is like while you're in your physical body, so here are our questions. So you acknowledge that the manifested, fuller version is more satisfying than the anticipated, imaginary, dreaming it into place version. In other words, do you like the things more than the thoughts? Well, we would if we were standing in your physical shoes. In fact, we do even when we are standing in your physical shoes. Because we're always standing in your physical shoes. Because the material thought is more momentous than the beginning of it. The more real it gets, then the more it is. The more you have thought about it. So are we in agreement that the more momentum and the closer to materialization, the better it is? All right, now here's why you're wrong. As a trap. But that feels really good. There is validity in that. That is a true thing. But this is what we want you to hear. What surpasses the thought turning into the thing and the thing being more, what surpasses that is alignment and connection with the whole of who you are focused in the now. That surpasses everything. Connecting to all that you are and focusing in the now. And then it doesn't matter so much if you're focused past, present, or future, except that your inner being never looks back. Your inner being just doesn't look back. Your inner being isn't looking back at the good times or the bad times. Your inner being isn't looking back. Your inner being is focused in the now. The difference is, this is the most leading edge conversation we've ever had. Thank you for coming. The difference is between you and your inner being is that when your inner being focuses in the now, Your inner being is over here standing in your vortex, because this is the now of your inner being. Once you've thought it, it's done. Once you've thought it, it's real. Once you've thought it, it's whole. So when your inner being focuses in this now, your inner being is calling you forward, and that's where your Father is.